Hey toy fans, Aaron here. Tonight, taking a look at the recently released vintage collection Chewbacca figure. So let's head to the table and check this one out. And looking at Chewie on the card, since this is the vintage collection line, that gets you the Star Wars logo with the silver racetrack running around the edges. Nice image of Chewbacca, which this is nothing we haven't seen before, as it's the same one that was used recently for the retro collection, and also for his release on the vintage original trilogy collection line. Through the blister, of course, you see the figure with his included accessory. On the back side, once again, nothing new here. Top half talks about celebrating the legacy of Star Wars. And off to the left side, you see 6 figures that are available in the line, including Chewbacca. Top right corner, you can see he's number 141 in the lineup. And now taking a look at him out of the packaging, there's not much new with this figure. This is a reissued figure from the 2014 Black Series 3 3/4 inch release. And what he's getting this time around is a different paint job, and that weapon is all black instead of being dark gray like it was on that original figure. Fortunately, I don't have one opened up to show because for some reason I had it listed as a repack, when indeed it turns out that 2014 figure was a new head sculpt, but the same body as the vintage original trilogy collection release of Chewbacca. So I guess I got another figure added to my shopping list. Concentrating now though just on this release, and I can't let it go unsaid at just how tall this figure is. He comes in standing at 4 3/4 of an inch tall, but I think still lines up very well within scale to the other figures in the line. As I said, the sculpt, nothing new, but things do look fantastic for it. But aside from that sculpt, I do have some issues with the paint job, which I will get into in a moment. Focusing just on the head, like I said, things really do look good sculpt-wise, and a very nice paint job to go along with that. The pupils for the eyes are painted in nicely, and you got a nice touch of blue popping out there. Black painting for the nose is looking good, white teeth, pink mouth, all look fantastic, and overall a good mix of dark brown, light browns throughout the hair. What I don't really like though is what you're starting to see down at the bottom of his fur for the head sculpt, and then leading into his chest and arms, and it's just this yellowish, well, it looks like puke is what it looks like. It's like he stepped into the scene of The Exorcist and she just puked all over him. And maybe they're trying to go for some sort of golden highlights to the hair, but for me it just does not play well. And really just detracts from an otherwise great looking figure. Aside from that yellowish greenish color of paint, this time around in comparison to that 2014 release, the dark browns, the light browns is kind of much more muted, and it feels a little bit blended together than it was on that original release. Not as blotchy looking. Sculpting through the main body though looks fantastic. You definitely get a good feeling of all his fur being sculpted in there. A lot of little loose strands and clumps of it even. Pretty good draping through the arms of the way that fur bunches together and lays down. It might seem a little bit odd on his left hand the way it sticks out off to the side, but once you have him positioned holding that weapon in a double-handed pose, that's where it blends in perfectly and looks absolutely like it should. His bandolier is looking really good. You get some great silver painting in there highlighting each of the little shells or whatever that are sculpted into position. Same painting for the backside. The satchel at the bottom of that bandolier is looking pretty good. Kind of sculpted to curve around the body a little bit. Nice dark weathering in there for some painting, or maybe you could even flip it around and say that the brown is what's weathered in. Either way though, it's looking pretty good, nice and aged. Some silver buckle painting down at the bottom of it. As I show in the articulation later, you're going to see that each of these little chest pieces that are sculpted, giving you different layers of fur, also make for some articulation points. For his fingertips, you can see some black fingernails painted in there. And then for the legs, pretty much what you expect to see of Chewbacca, just a lot of fur sculpted in there. Once again, good mix of dark brown and light brown, some nice fading between the colors. But unfortunately at the feet, some more of that yellow painting again. I'm just not a fan of that, obviously. For the toes, once again, a little bit of black fingernails painted in. And along with that, some dark gray at the toes themselves. And I'll flip him over here. You can see at the bottom of his feet, you got some gray padding there painted in. So nice little attention to detail there, considering it's at the bottom and, you know, they could have just easily painted it all brown. As for the articulation, not much is really happening in the head because of the way that fur is sculpted down in front and around the back. But you get a slight twist in there. Each of the shoulders swivel all the way around. And as you can see, they swivel up very high there. So he's got a good reach going up, and you can even swivel him around and almost get them going straight up. So great range of motion there. Each elbow bends just a little past 90 degrees, and then you get your swiveling in there. And for the wrists, each one does swivel around, but no other articulation there. Through his waist, he's got 3 points of articulation. So at the very top, you can swivel them all the way around if you wanted to. You can achieve the same thing at the middle of the chest. And then at the bottom, you're just getting some movement side to side. And then at each point, he has some crunching in there. Not too much, but, you know, he still arcs around pretty good. The legs come straight out and almost go straight back. Single bend at the knee, and you have your rotation in there. Each foot moves forward and back with a pretty decent range of motion, and you've got swiveling at that ankle. And for accessories, he comes with his bowcaster. Nice all black plastic here, but no other special painting or anything to it. Sculpting to it's looking pretty decent. Has some texturing sculpted in on that strap that runs down from the back end up to the front. And you might need to work at it a little bit just to get those hands opened up, but you can certainly fit the weapon into his hand and achieve a nice double-handed pose with this. So overall, I mean, it's not a horrible figure. The sculpting of this figure is fantastic, and as I mentioned, he came out originally back on the Vintage Original Trilogy Collection line using the main body, but the head sculpt was done in the Return of the Jedi style. This figure as a whole is a reissue of the 2014 Black Series release, the 3 3/4 inch version, and we are getting a much better paint job for the fur. For me personally, it's the yellow that's just killing it on this figure. Aside from that though, head sculpt, body sculpting, all look really fantastic. So if you don't have that original 2014 release, this still is a pretty good figure to get. And maybe the yellow doesn't bug you as much as it does me. And that wraps up this look at Chewbacca from the Vintage Collection. I'd love to know what your thoughts are on this figure in the comment section below. And as always, thank you for watching.